Right.
That's it.
So, welcome on board, people. Let's hide this floating thing. Can we see my screen? What are we seeing? Can we see?
Visualization.
You're seeing my Power BI, Abby.
Yes.
Okay, that's cool. Okay. So let's go back into the back end, which is our Power Query. Now to get into Power Query, after you have loaded your work, um, the way we have loaded everything we did yesterday. We loaded and we saw how to save us and name your report and save it where you would normally save something like this. So you can easily see. And we said yesterday, we said that Power BI hasn't got autosave. So as you do more work, you want to uh, keep saving, you can just click this top save icon here, or you can just come here and keep clicking save if you are the type that likes to be double sure. Okay. Of course, we loaded our work into Power BI desktop from the Power Query yesterday, and we saw it was quite a rushed last 10 minutes. So I'm going to take time and go through what we have done, very quickly. So we brought our data in. So let's go back into Power Query. If you want to go back into Power Query, there are different ways to do that. You can just click the three, who sent it this message? The three ellipses. When you hover your cursor on the table, these three dots, uh, they come up. So you can click on that and you see so many options of, different functions that you can perform on this table. You can create measure. As we go on, we'll know what measure is. You can create a new column, quick measure. You can refresh your data, and refreshing is you keeping it updated for you to get any new data set that has been added to the source. So refreshing it brings all the new data that has been newly added since you last, refreshed or did the report. That brings it in. Incremental refresh, edit query. This is where we are going. You can do other things like delete it if you don't want it anymore, or rename it if you need to, if you want to rename it. If it was a date table, we will mark it as a date table. But this is not a date table. So I just want to edit. Edit means I want to be able to edit, like, click and amend some things on it. So you can either do that here, or you come to under home, you come to what we call transform data. So if we click down here, if I click on transform data, it takes me back to that Power Query. That's one way to do it. And if you come onto the side of any of the table, if you have more tables and edits the query, it also takes you back. You see, now it has opened that Power Query interface again. And so we come here, and we are back to exactly what we loaded. And see, as many of the steps that we did, is already here, that's recorded. You can also always come into all of these steps and rename them, okay? Okay, I think I've shown that in a previous class. We renamed this step as Emily replaced. Well, this is where we corrected Emily's email, Michael Lee's email, okay? You can do the same for each of the steps, just for it to remind you of exactly what you did in each of those steps. I think it's a good way to do your recording your steps, recording everything that you did. If you don't have time to do that within the data what do I normally call that? It has escaped my mind. You know, you would normally have a document where you record everything you have done on that data. And it's just a template that you make for yourself or find somewhere. Just a documentation of the work you have done, how you brought it in, where you brought it in from, the different data issues, data quality issues you found and corrected on there. You know, the aim of the report, you know, what questions have been asked, just those, a table or a document that gives information to either to yourself in case you forget, you know, after a while, you forget so many things about the report you have made, especially if you have made a lot more, you know, after that. Okay. So documenting your work is a good way to keep yourself updated, but more importantly, to help anyone that's going to inherit that report from you, either because you are leaving the organization, you know, or because you're leaving that role and someone else is going to take over. They have to understand the reason why you did certain steps the way you did them. And it could be that you are even the one that needs reference back to that report. There's this report I built last year, something to track action plan, how much every day, just to see how much people are lagging behind in their action plans, if they are reaching deadline on time or if they are really behind, so that whoever is in charge of those action plans can you know, call on team members to remind them to do what they need to do before deadlines. Okay, so, and it took me a while to achieve that report. In the end, it was achieved. And, you know, I did tell them that, okay, make sure you retain the data structure for next year, so that all we'll just do is plug your new data source into this same report, and it just keeps generating. You know, don't change anything so that you don't give me work. But we all know that most of the time that's not going to happen. Somebody will change something and it lands on your desk. And so the one for this year needs to be done. And, you know, I actually forgot so many things I did in that report. Thank God I didn't delete the actual desktop file of it from my own, because it's not something for my department. So if I didn't want to keep it, then I didn't want to keep it, but I kept it. So I had to go back and refer to a lot of, in fact, I sat with it like I was studying medicine, you know, like, okay, what did I do in this step? How did I, why did I even do it like this? You know, so I had to like farabalally do a lot of studying, that you can then imagine that report needed to be studied by someone else who did not even have any relationship with the report at all. It would even be extra hard if it's not properly explained. So I'm laying emphasis on this part because it's really important. It could be something that saves you or saves another colleague of yours, or even the organization, a whole lot of stress. So documenting your process is very important. And thank goodness in Power BI, you can easily do that by just naming these steps exactly what you achieved with it. Like here, it says added conditional column. What was that conditional column meant to be achieving for us? We used it to address the missing phone value, phone number for Michael Lee. So we can easily coin something that shows us that's what was done, you know, in that step. Okay. So enough of that. Okay. So in our data slide, that's data analytics life cycle. We said you have to understand what the problem is. Well, because this was just a data quality exercise, it's not like we were given a problem to solve. Okay. So I think I will leave it up to the class to think of a kind of a problem you think we can, we may need to, you know, solve from this sort of data set. Okay, so let's brainstorm and look for questions, objectives that could arise from this type of what may, if you had this kind of data set, what would you like to see as a manager, maybe a sales manager, you know, what information would you like for this data set to tell you? Okay, so that is the first step of data analytics life cycle. Then you getting the data from source, which we have already done. We've gotten the data already from source. Normally, the objective would precede getting the data, because it's when you know what you want to achieve that then you will know exactly what data sets to look for and where to look for it. Okay. But like I said, this is just an assignment to address data quality issues. We are now just extending it to actual analysis because it's small and it will help us to easily learn very quickly. You know, if it's too massive, we may not see as much as we are seeing, you know, right now, and it would help easy understandability, if there's a word like that. Okay, so what would you like to see? That's the objective. Where is the data set? We've got it already. What are the data quality issues that it has? What do we need to do to it to actually achieve the result that we need to achieve? I believe we've solved the data quality issues that we have here. It would have been nice to see something that gives us what the profit is, okay? But we don't have that. If we had, we have the price here. If we had maybe cost price, how much it cost them to get these products, and then the sales price, we can easily take subtract those two and get profit and see which product is actually giving us more profit. You can also be thinking of looking at which of these customers is a good customer, which is a returning one that's bought from us more than once, you know, that we can keep bombarding. It seems like they like our product. We can keep, you know, bombarding them with discounts, offers, and all of that, so that we keep grabbing their attention. Okay, but yeah, all that being said, we have enhanced the data, we have cleaned it. Okay, and I believe each one of us is thinking of the problem they would want to solve with this, because that's what we'll do when we load this data. Okay, then we want to look at the data modeling side of this. To do a correct data model, and data modeling is more about you are able to distinguish between or within your table what are the metrics, the aspects of the data that are measurable, that you are measuring, you are quantifying, okay? And what aspects of this data is the descriptive, that is qualifying the one that you are quantifying, okay? To break that down, in this data set, what are the who's? You know, who is this data set about? What is it about? The who, the what, the when, that is the dates, the when. When did it happen? If there is a location, where did it happen? As I'm talking, I'm expecting us to be picking each of these columns, which one belongs to what, okay? The who's in this, for example, in this data set are the customers, okay? The customers can represent the who's, okay? The what would be the products that we are selling. What is it about those? The products are the what's, okay? The when would be the dates. When did it happen? It happened so date, okay? Where? Okay, we have a where there, something to do with location, city, okay? And I don't know if I've picked, and the how. Sometimes if there's a how, the how could be how how this business occur. Was it online? Was it in store? Was it catalog? You know, how? We don't have that how, I believe, here. So yeah, we don't have any how here. So that's fine. Okay. So with this in mind, the dimensions are the qualifiers, that they are qualifying our metrics, what we want to measure. And those dimensions are your who, the what, the how, the when, and the where. Okay. So customers should be dimension. Okay. City should be dimension. Okay. I'm giving us the answer now so that we are very clear. But when we change data set and we work on another data set, with what I'm saying now, I would be expecting us to be able to pick those dimensions out by ourselves. Okay, so the who's, customers, we can decide to look at total sales amount we got by customer. Okay, so we can decide to look at it by if we had more months in our dates, we could have said, okay, let's look at the total sales price or total sales amount we made. Let's look at it by products. Products is the what? That is a dimension as well, a dimension to our data set. By dates, we can decide to look at things on a day level. Which day did we make the most money? If we use this, and it could be if we had many years of data, we could say that let's look at our data set of by year. Let's see what has happened. The trend of how prices, how much, I don't like price being the column header here. Okay, maybe sales amount would have been a better use of that column header there. Okay, but yeah, how much, which of the days or the months or the years brought us the most or the least amount of money? Okay, so we could slice. So this is a metric that we can measure. That is a fact. That is a fact part, or I don't want to say factable, but a fact side to this data set. Quantity can be measured as well. That is also a metric, a fact part to our data set. But you see, products, we can decide to slice this price by products. We can decide to slice this quantity by products. We can decide to slice price and quantity by dates, by this date here. That makes dates a dimension. We can decide to slice both price and quantity by city. Okay, our customers, which city is generating the most money for us or the least money for us. We can decide to do that. We can decide to do that by customer. That's the only other dimension I see here, by customer. Okay, we can't say customer ID because without the actual names to these are just numbers to us, but they are used as IDs to quickly, for the database to quickly recognize or fish out who you are looking for. So each person is given a unique number. That is what this ID is about, okay? The same with email. Emails are quite unique and yeah, very unique to each role, to each person, its own, like they say. Even phone numbers as well can be used, to quickly fish out somebody, from a long list of rows of data. Okay, so we now have this. How do we create a data model from it? We have recognized that we have customer name. I don't always like using names, for dimension, because 2 or 3 people can bear the same name, exactly the same name, but they won't be having the same customer ID. Okay, so it's best we we use customer ID, you know, we bring customer ID out in this, for this purpose now, okay? Actually, both customer ID and customer name can be our customers table. That's the best way to do it. Okay, so we can also bring city out and make them unique. We can bring products out as well, and we can bring dates out. So let's use those 4 dimensions: products, dates, city, and customer with all their details. Okay, so how do we do it? This is where we start to we get to introduce us to another function in Power Query: how to duplicate your table or query. Remember, we said tables are also called query in queries in Power Query. Okay, so we can duplicate this, and I believe we've actually seen this before in one of our classes. Yes, we have seen it. It's not new, we've seen it before. So 2 ways you can duplicate your table. The quickest is, for me, is just to right click and, you know, use either duplicate or reference. I believe in one of our previous classes, we did learn the difference between duplicate and reference. If I duplicate this table now, these 2 tables become independent of each other. This table 2, again, 2 tables cannot bear exactly the same name in Power Query. That's why it's put a 2 in front of this one, because the names are quite similar. Okay, so when I use duplicate, the 2 of them, you know, are not dependent. This new one created is not dependent on this one. But if I use reference also creates a new copy of the same table. But let me click on reference, you see. So we use duplicates to achieve this, and we use the reference to achieve this. It depends on which one you would choose, depends on what you are trying to achieve. Now, when you duplicate a table, that new copy is not dependent at all on the first one that you created it from, you see. And we can see from the steps. So it brought all of the steps that were in this one, in the first one, it brought all of the steps along. So whatever, if I decide to, in the new table, if I decide to maybe add a new step and remove customer ID, you know, it's added new table, new step here that I removed. I removed customer ID. Okay, that does not affect. It doesn't affect this. It's the other way around, actually. I'm teaching you that the wrong way. Let me repeat myself. Okay. Now, this new table, which is made by duplicating, is not dependent on this, which means that anything that happens to this table, the original table, does not reflect on the second table. So if I decide to remove customer ID table, for example, from here, you would expect that customer ID disappears from these as well. But no, that's not going to happen, because the 2 are not dependent of each other anymore. And how you even see that further is that when we duplicated, all of the steps, you know, on the first one, the original one, were carried forward by the duplicated copy. That's why the 2 of them aren't dependent on each other at all anymore. Okay, so, but see, I removed customer ID from this. It didn't affect the duplicated table, but it affected the referenced table. See, immediately I took that column out of here, it's disappeared from this referenced one as well. So if you want whatever happens to the first table, the original table, to reflect in your new table that you created it from, use reference. If you don't want them to have anything to do with each other, use duplicate. That's why we say it depends on what you are trying to achieve. And why is it so for reference? See, if we go into the reference table, instead of it to carry forward all of the steps here, it refused to bring all of the steps. Rather, it's telling us this, only source. That is, it's making this original table, the first table is source. That's where it's feeding from, okay? That whatever you do to my source, let it happen to me as well. Although whatever you do to this particular reference table, it won't reflect on the parent table. I removed I removed the email. It won't reflect on the parent table because it is the parent. But anything you do to the parent would reflect on this referenced child. I hope I didn't confuse you with that. Let me remove those last steps. They were just for explanation. And let me, I don't need this reference, to be honest. I'm not going to reference. So we can delete this last table. Okay. Now, the reason we are making copies of these tables is because we want to build a model. And we need to have other tables around our main table. The table we loaded and worked on, that is our main table that we can refer to as the facts table, where all the others are recorded. That becomes our facts table. Now we need to create the dimension tables now that we talked about, so that we will now have what we call customer table, where all we have is our customer details. We have the products table, where all we have is just our product details. Then we have a location table, where all we have is just the cities, you know, just somewhere. We're using the main table to get out, you know, unique information around the different dimensions that we have. Okay, so this second table, which we can call our customer table, will just contain customer information. So if I decide to keep, okay, because it's just going to be customer table, every other column that's not related exactly to the customer information I need can all go off. Okay, I can decide to keep customer ID, customer name, and email. Okay, those three columns, I can decide to keep them. And because I'm keeping only the columns I have chosen, I'm going to remove other columns. So I removed other columns. I'm now left with this table, which is the customers table. I'm going to rename that to customer table. Okay. Customers, I can just leave it as customers or customer table, whatever you want to name it as. Okay. Now this is not the end of it. I also want to be sure that nothing is repeated here. Okay. So I'll use either the customer ID or the email. Those are the two unique columns there, where if anything is repeated, then it needs to come off. Okay. So for example, we have from 1 to 12. So and this is 1011. So which means there is one person that's been repeated twice, I believe. Is this Sarah? Yeah, Sarah Ahmed. So Sarah Ahmed has placed order twice. She's appearing here and she's appearing here. Okay. So I'm going to choose the customer ID, click on it, right click, and say that I need to remove duplicates. Anything that's appearing more than once, just take it out. I don't need it because this table needs to be unique. Okay. So I remove that. And now we have unique values. So one row for one customer, another row for another customer. As many customers we have, they appear only once. In the database, in our database that we are creating now, our customers table only contains information about our customers, nothing more. And we got that from the others table because that is where others of customers are logged, are recorded. Okay, so that is that about customers. And then we need cities. Maybe we call that location table. So I'm going to do, so this step is repeated. I'm going to repeat the same thing I did just now. And I'm very conscious of time. because I said we'll go early, so we will go early. We duplicate again, we are not going to use reference, okay? And this time around, we are keeping only the city, okay? And we remove every other column, and then we decide, we say that this needs to remove duplicates for us. And now we have unique, only 5 cities there that are unique. And we rename our table to location, okay? And we do the same, we just keep, doing the same for as many of the dimensions that we need as possible, okay? Duplicate again, and this time around, we are going to be needing the products, I believe. So remove other columns. And duplicate and remove duplicates here as well, because this is our products table. It only contains information about our products, okay? And so we can rename this as products. Products, okay? And last but not the least is the dates. Now, this is not the most ideal way to create dates, but just for lazy, let's just do it for now purpose. I'm going to click on data as well, remove other columns, and we can make the date unique by removing duplicates. And for now, we just call this our dates table. Like I said, this is not the perfect way to create a table. We'll see that as we move on, And so now we have all our different dimension tables, okay? And then we have the others table, okay? Now somebody would argue and say that, what's the point? What's the point in, it's like we're adding more load to our table. All of these already exist in the others table. Why are we re-existing or repeating them? Okay. Now, ideally, now that in the customers table, we have all of this information, ideally a few of these can be taken off. We have customer ID, okay? So normally you don't need to have the customer name and the email anymore. Those are not supposed to be here anymore. So that's when in the real ideal world now, how it's supposed to be. When a customer, let's remove this first. So when a customer places an order, in the orders table is their customer ID that's reflected. But because the customer ID is already in the customer table, it is the communication between these two tables using the customer ID. The customer ID is here. It is also here. So those columns within the two tables, we talk to each other, okay, and fish out the name and the email for this one. That's how it should be, okay? So it's just the customer ID that's in this table and also in this table. And those two need to be like that, because we need for something, a particular column to communicate between the two, okay? So in the same way, location is supposed to have an ID, okay? So that we don't necessarily have a city as a name, within the master sheet, which is this fact table. It's just the location ID that we normally should be seeing. And then from the location and its ID, we can relate those two together, but that's not the case for location. Now, customers is the one that has appeared the best way and that we are able to bring out the best way. Others don't have a particular ID to them. Products are supposed to have an ID, like a code, to label it, to say, okay, oh, this label 101, laptops are our 101s, monitors are our 102, and all of that. That is how normally a database would be woven together, okay? Such that we are not repeating products, we are not repeating what other cities, we are not repeating yes, we are not repeating most of the most of the dimensions that look like is repeated. We are not repeating that. Okay. Also, it's not most ideal or best practice to work just on this table as a flat table. You know, it's not best practice. This is it's best for, because you are trying to achieve a data model, and we have different types of them. You sort of decentralize the data, you know, and standardize your practice. And it is believed that when you have done it like this, you have actually reduced, you know, you have actually reduced the load, you know, of your report. I can't remember exactly, because I've asked that question from chat before. I can't remember exactly what it said. Why the major reason it said this is the best way to do it, but it is the best way to decentralize your data set and bring out, you know, the dimensions that you need. Not all of the dimensions there, you know, only the ones you need for that report. For example, I'm you know, working now with the assumption, you know, that we need to analyze based on customers, based on locations, based on products, and based on dates. That's why those are brought out. If not all of them are needed, there's no need to bring all of them out as dimensions. Okay. Up to this point, do we have any questions? I'm going to close and load this, and let us quickly see how that works in the actual data model aspect of things. Do we have any question? Am I still in class, or have been booted out by my network? Let someone holler me, please.
You are in classes.
Very class one.
Yes, go on.
No, it's just that like it's really getting more serious. Like someone needs to like really follow.
Yes.
Like last step now, someone needs to really practice it before.
Yes, and you know, it's okay if it's still looking somehow now, because the first time you see something done, it would look somehow. But the more you then do it, even if it's the same data set you are using to repeat and get a hang on it, okay, the more you do it, the more it becomes second nature to you. Okay. So remember that when we came in here, again, let's save everything that we have done so far in case NEPA takes light and there's no light on the computer and it goes off for whatever reason. So let's be sure. And you can see it tells you that it's been saved at this time. So we are fine. Okay. So when we come into, we close and apply the Power Query and we come here, you see, the first thing you see, all of those tables are loaded. Before we only saw one table, the other table. All of those different tables are loaded now. And if you check them in the table view, each one of them you click on, you will see them all in table view. But more importantly, the reason that it was done that way, this is where we now see the action, you know, in action. You can click down and drag these ones around, by the way. Okay, so let me arrange so that just 2 minutes more and we'll go and rest, like I said. So this is the data model view. This is where you now see the connection. And immediately you load and you bring your tables in. If it can sense a connection between them, it creates the relationship for you anyway. Okay, it wasn't able to sense any for this. So we are going to create it ourselves, okay? So if it would normally create relationships for you. If you don't want it, if you don't, that's relationship, that's not the way you want that relationship. You can delete by, you know, hovering here. You can delete it, right click and delete, or you can check the properties, okay? So immediately I hovered on this, you can see that it has seen customer ID here and customer ID here, and it has linked them to each other. So these two tables can talk to each other now. So to say, talk in quote. The same goes for here. You can see product. You can see location and location, city. Okay, but it didn't make this one for us. So we are going to drag this other dates and drag it and drop it on the other dates here. Just leave it to drop, you see, and it opens up this new relationship dialog. telling us, okay, there's a dates table, it has this, and there's the other table that we are trying to connect it with, it has this, and the relationship cardinality, the type of relationship is one to many. We'll see, we'll hear what that means tomorrow by the grace of God. Cross filter direction is single. Make this relationship active, then we save that. And you see, immediately it created that for us. It just couldn't sense it. That's why I didn't create it, okay? And the meaning of one to many, many to one, all of that, we will see, we'll talk about tomorrow. Let's go and rest on this for now. I haven't uploaded yesterday's recording, so I'll do the both of them tonight so that people can watch and practice as they watch. But yes, that is how we create simple data models. Okay, the type of data model, this is within the time that we have, we'll discuss the different types of data models as well. This is a simple star schema is what it is called. Star because it's like one king is in the middle and all the other ones are bowing to it, so to say, like a star. Okay, so that's why it's called a star schema. And it's just simply that all of the dimension tables are directly joining or talking or linked to the fact table. These ones are dimension tables. These ones are fact table. I pray I remember to open my slide tomorrow so that we can refer to the slide as we learn. Okay, so I hope with these few points of mine,